here with David Pepose, writer of Spencer and Locke, the upcoming Going to the Chapel. David, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much for having me.
Of course, of course. So you're writing Spencer and Locke too.
Yeah.
Now, Donny Cates has talked about writing Thanos and like getting in that character's head and the dark places it took him to. Talk to me about writing Roach Riley.
Oh, that's a great question because he was that was sort of the toughest part of writing our sequel was I wanted to make a villain that was just as worthy of our lead characters. Because our first arc was sort of what if Calvin and Hobbes grew up in Sin City, and there's a story about PTSD and trauma and mental illness and what are the lengths the mind will go to protect itself from harm. So I was thinking, what's the opposite of all that? And it took me a little while to get into that headspace. I tried so many iterations of Roach. For a while, it was going to be sort of a metatextual kind of thing, where Roach could he was the puppet who could see the strings. He was thinking, oh, well, my life has been ruined by sort of these unseen people for their entertainment, and how messed up is that? Maybe I'll burn it all down. I thought that was a little too much. And eventually, I kind of focused in on Spencer and Locke. Their trajectory is one of hope. It's a redemptive kind of arc. And what's the opposite of that? It's sort of, Roach thinks that once you've had the worst day of your life, that's it. Nothing else can touch you. It's sort of
Joker-esque.
Yeah, exactly. I look to Heath Ledger's Joker as a huge inspiration behind this. Also Taxi Driver and The Deer Hunter. And so once I got into that headspace, the whole story kind of clicked for me in terms of its themes and how Locke would react to things and how Roach would kind of slowly start kind of taking control of the situation. He was kind of a hard character to stay in with long term, but it was so rewarding to write in a certain way. Locke is the kind of character who he's always trying to kind of keep everything under wraps. He's got this sort of simmering intensity to him that comes out in bursts. Roach is he's himself. He's very open, and he almost treats destruction like art. And so he's able to kind of, every time you see him pop up on the page, he's going at 100%. And so that was kind of fun and kind of freeing, and it gives a different kind of energy and tempo to the story.
And your other upcoming series is Going to the Chapel.
Yeah.
Tell us a little bit about that. What can we expect? Who is it for?
So Going to the Chapel, the easy logline is it's like Die Hard met Wedding Crashers. It's about a wealthy bride dealing with a serious case of cold feet. But before she can say anything, her wedding's taken over by a gang of Elvis-themed bank robbers. So she's going to have to play both sides against the middle if she wants to get out in one piece. It's a love story. It's a story about commitment and dysfunctional families. And what does it take to say till death do us part? I feel like rom-coms always get a bad rap, not just in the direct market, but pop culture. I feel like people...
They look down on them.
Yeah, they think that there's a preconception of who's allowed to consume and enjoy these things. And I think that's nonsense. A lot of my favorite movies are twists in the rom-com genre. You have Eternal Sunshine of the Spotless Mind, you have 500 Days of Summer, you have About Time. I think rom-coms are just as flexible of a genre as crime or science fiction. And so I wanted to write something that I thought I would really like to read. That both men and women would enjoy and kind of have a lot of fun reading. So people said it's like if 90s Julia Roberts was in a 90s Quentin Tarantino movie.
It feels very Tarantino.
Thank you. I'm trying to sort of bring in a wider consensus. Bring more people to the table, and I think this is kind of an action comedy that I think everybody can enjoy.
I think so too. I loved it myself. We were talking a little bit before we started rolling.
Yeah.
You had some great advice for like up and coming writers that like I hadn't heard people say before.
Yeah.
Do you mind just reiterating?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, some of it is don't get discouraged. And there's going to be so many roadblocks that happen to you in comics. We were talking a little bit, Spencer and Locke, for example. There were a lot of iterations to this. We had 3 different colorists before we got into that. And I consider myself lucky. Going to the Chapel went through even more innovations. We had 3 different artists on board. We had 3 different colorists on board. We had 2 different letterers on board. Things will fall through. It's just the nature of the business. People, they get busy, they have family things come up, they bite off more than they can chew. And the thing that writers especially have to remember is you have it easy. You can write 5 scripts in the amount of time that one artist can draw 1 issue. So you really have to kind of remember, they're doing physical labor. You're just doing, as much labor on your hands, I guess, as you're typing. But, so you have to kind of manage your expectations a bit, and when you find somebody who can go the distance, you really got to hold on to them tight. And just on top of that, it takes time. It's a marathon. We were talking earlier about this, but it took 9 months for the pitch for Spencer, just the pitch to get put together. And then it took another 6 months to get an offer for it. And then it took another 10 months to complete it. And so when you start thinking of it like that, especially when you're starting out in the creator-owned scene, these things aren't fast. And the sort of the higher quality you're shooting for, the longer it's going to take. And my biggest suggestion for any creator out there is learn other elements of the business. For me, I started as a reviewer, so I was able to sort of articulate what I liked about comics art and what I didn't like and the kinds of shots that I liked. So I could discuss with an artist in the thumbnail stage what I liked. I took classes at Comics Experience online for coloring and lettering, and that helped me out in a big way because if you're able to sort of look at your pages and be able to go on Photoshop and say, hey, what would it look like if we did this? Then you can convey that to your colorist. And you guys can sort of go back and forth about what would look best for this book to sort of stay true to your vision, but also to sort of do something that the colorist feels like they are a part of. It's a lot of communications, a lot of back and forth, and it's a lot of trial and error. No two teams work the same way. I can tell you, for example, going to the chapel. As a whole, that book moved together so much faster than Spencer and Locke. But on the other hand, like I was saying, we would keep having to switch team members, just before we could get our momentum going. So it took a lot longer to get started. But at the same time, I always say making comics is the hardest thing I've ever done, but it's also the most worthwhile. Anybody out there who's thinking about that they want to do a comic, do it. Start small if you want. You don't even have to start making the artwork. If you're a writer, start with short scripts until you feel confident enough that you can do a full issue script, until you can do a 4-issue arc, you can do a 6-issue arc. A lot of people think, oh, I'm going to do a 60-issue epic, and that's not how it works, guys. Publishers don't know who you are. Publishers are also naturally risk averse. They're very conservative with the choices they make because, of course, they're not looking to go into debt. They're looking to at least break even on their book, or hopefully bring back some sort of dividend. And so, by being able to say, I have a self-contained story. It's got a beginning, middle, and end. Here's what it is. Don't hold on to your twists. Tell your editors exactly what this book is going to be. They know that you're not biting off more than you can chew. They know that you're not crazy. They know that maybe you can write. And these are all things that publishers want to know. And then once you start working with them, once you start turning in scripts, then they can know, oh, okay, they're easy to work with. They can hit a deadline. They know how to write. They're not crazy. These are all things that go a long way towards helping your career in the long term.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Of course, my pleasure. Thanks for having me.